The arena was suffocating under the weight of inevitability. Inside the ring, the current champion stood with a microphone that felt more like a scepter of tyranny than a tool of communication. She had dismantled every challenger, erased every hero, and turned the division into a graveyard of ambition. The crowd wasn't booing anymore. They were silent, paralyzed by the sheer dominance they were witnessing. It was a stillness that felt heavy, the kind of atmosphere where hope goes to die. The champion raised her hand, ready to declare that there was no one left, that the history books were closed, and that her reign was eternal. The air in the stadium grew thin, the fans waiting for the lights to fade, resigned to another night of predictable supremacy. But the universe abhors a vacuum. Just as the champion opened her mouth to deliver the final nail in the coffin of the division, the air pressure in the building seemed to shift. It wasn't a sound at first, it was a feeling, a low-frequency hum that vibrated through the floorboards and up through the soles of 20,000 pairs of feet. The champion paused, her eyes darting to the entrance ramp, a flicker of genuine confusion cracking her perfect facade. The Titantron, usually bright with her branding, flickered and died. Total darkness swallowed the arena. The silence transformed instantly from boredom to a terrified anticipation. In the dark, you could hear the collective intake of breath, the sound of 20,000 people realizing that the script had just been burned. This wasn't a technical glitch. This was an omen. The darkness held for 10 seconds, an eternity in television time, stretching the tension until it threatened to snap the minds of everyone watching. A single, piercing note shattered the blackness. It was a sound instantly recognized by a generation, a sonic trigger that bypassed logic and went straight to the nervous system. The lights didn't just turn on, exploded in a blinding strobe of white and gold. The roar that followed wasn't human. It was a seismic event, a wall of noise so physical it caused the cameras to shake on their tripods. The commentary team was drowned out instantly, their headsets useless against the tidal wave of nostalgia and shock crashing down from the rafters. Michael Cole was out of his seat, screaming into a void, his face a mask of disbelief, mouthing words that no one could hear over the hysteria. The barricades shook as fans surged forward, grown men and women clutching their heads, tears streaming down faces that had forgotten what genuine surprise felt like. She stepped out from the smoke. She didn't run. She didn't dance. She simply walked. The visual was jarring. She looked exactly as we remembered, yet entirely different. Time had sharpened her edges. The playful energy of her past was replaced by a dangerous, focused calm. As she stood at the top of the ramp, scanning the sea of people losing their minds, the camera caught the look in her eyes. It wasn't joy. It was a cold, calculated assessment of the kingdom she had left behind. "Oh my God, it can't be." She vowed never to return, Graves shouted, his voice cracking through the audio mix. The landscape has just shifted. Tectonic plates of this industry have just been shattered. She began the slow walk to the ring, ignoring the outstretched hands, her gaze locked on the terrified champion. This wasn't a reunion tour. This was an invasion. She slid under the bottom rope, the movement fluid and predatory, rising to her feet in the center of the ring. The music cut. The sudden absence of the theme song left only the raw, organic roar of the crowd, a chant that started as a murmur and grew into a deafening mantra of her name. The champion, previously untouchable, retreated to the corner, clutching her title belt like a shield. The dynamic had flipped in seconds. The predator was now the prey. The returning legend didn't ask for a microphone. She didn't need to cut a promo to explain why she was there. Her presence was the promo. She stood in the center of the ring, chest heaving slightly, soaking in the energy that she had been denied for years. The stare they shared carried the weight of a decade. On one side, the arrogance of the modern era, the polished, athletic perfection of the current generation. On the other, the grit and scars of the pioneer who paved the road they were all driving on. The camera zoomed in tight on the returnee's face. There was no smile. She slowly tilted her head, a signature mannerism that sent a fresh wave of chills through the audience. She extended a hand, not to shake, but to point. She pointed at the title, then at the champion, then at the ground beneath her feet. "This is still my house," she mouthed, the words visible clearly on the 4K screens. The champion stepped forward, trying to regain ground, but the returning icon simply laughed, a dry, humorless sound that the ring microphones picked up. was the sound of someone who knows the ending of a movie before it starts. The psychological warfare had begun before a single punch was thrown. The broadcast faded to black, but the story was only beginning. The moment the show went off the air, the digital world caught fire. Twitter trends were monopolized globally within minutes. Clips of the entrance amassed millions of views before the arena had even emptied. But the real drama was unfolding behind the curtain. Backstage, the locker room was in chaos. The carefully curated hierarchy of the division had been thrown into disarray. Young upstarts, who thought their spots on the WrestleMania card were guaranteed, were now looking at their phones, realizing they had just been bumped down the ladder. The producers were scrambling, rewriting scripts, tearing up months of creative plans in a panic to accommodate the lightning bolt that had just struck the company. In the viewing areas, legends of the past watched monitors with mixed expressions: pride, envy, and concern. They knew the cost of this life. They knew that a return of this magnitude brings a pressure that breaks normal people. The family of the returning star, watching from home, likely felt a mixture of elation and dread. They knew the demons she had fought to leave this world behind, and now she was walking back into the fire. The wrestling media began their speculation immediately. Was this a one-off? Was she back full-time? Who agreed to this? The blurred lines between reality and fiction vanished. This wasn't a storyline written by a team of writers. This was a legitimate negotiation of legacy playing out in real time. The shock of the entry wasn't just about the surprise. It was about the consequences. Every woman in that locker room now had to work harder, run faster, and hit harder, because the standard bearer had returned to grade their papers. As the dust settles on the viral moment, we are left to analyze what we actually witnessed. We love the return because it reminds us of a time when we felt something visceral. It taps into our nostalgia, yes, but it also speaks to the unfinished business that haunts all great performers. But look closer at that final shot of her exiting the arena. The adrenaline had faded, and for a split second, the camera caught a flicker of something else in her eyes. It wasn't triumph. It was the heavy realization of the mountain she now has to climb all over again. The fans see a hero returning to save the day, but the story being told is far more complex. The twist isn't that she came back to win the title. The twist is that she came back because she couldn't exist without the noise. The tragedy of the wrestler is that the applause is the only fuel that burns clean, and she was running on empty. By entering that ring, she didn't just challenge the champion. She challenged her own peace of mind. She returned to destroy the monster she helped create, only to realize that to beat the monster, she might have to become something even darker than she was before. The hero we cheered for in the opening segment might very well be the villain of the final act. The entry was shocking, yes, but the exit, that might be devastating. The lights went out to bring her in, but when she's done, she might be the one to turn them off for good.